As we reported earlier in the newscast, the St. Louis Cardinals now at the center of an FBI investigation for possibly hacking the Houston Astros. It's the latest of several cybersecurity breaches we've seen over the years affecting businesses, insurance agencies, even the federal government. I'm joined tonight by David Hunnicutt. He's the chair of the School of Information Technology at ITT Tech. David, thanks a lot for joining us. So you got to be kidding me. Baseball is now, you know, Deflategate in football is not enough, or you know, the taping of sidelines in football. Now we've got this involving baseball, and this particular investigation, could this have been prevented just simply by using some common sense?
Well, I read the article later today, and it's possible that it could have been. I don't know all the details on it, but it seems like if somebody left a company, usually companies should be very vigilant about deleting anybody else's access that has left, right, in all their accounts.
And even when we delete items on a computer, do we still leave our fingerprints somewhere on that computer that an expert can pick up?
It depends. And in the computer world, it depends is an answer that you're going to hear a lot. If you delete a particular file, all it really does is make a note to the computer, and it renames the file, and so that you can undelete it if necessary. However, if you delete it using some software that writes over that space where that file was written to on the hard drive, then you can get rid of it.
All right. Now, this is a threat that, you know, it's been with us for a long time.
Right.
But it really started gaining traction after the Target story, Home Depot and all the others. Is this a story that's going to go away, or is it going to get worse before it gets better?
It probably won't go away. It'll probably stay around, wherever there's information, there's always going to be somebody wanting that information. And the thing is, the people that want that information are going to go after the information that's going to make them money.
And who are these hackers? I mean, the person out, you know, I remember the Matthew Broderick movie War Games, and that really dates me, but that goes back 30 years. But you know, the character he played, an innocent teenager who somehow got into the NORAD system that controlled nuclear weapons. Who are these people? I mean, are some of them really wanting to do damage, terrorist damage, or just people who just love the thrill of hacking?
Well, there's different motivations. Some of them are in it for the money, some of them are in it for notoriety, some of them are in it just to see if they can do it, type of thing.
And you know of a website, you know, there was another hack I read about today about a password storage app that somehow got hacked, you know, where you can take all your passwords, you need one code, and people forget about their passwords all the time. I'm one of them. But you have a website that you found that might be helpful. Let's put that up right now. What website is this called? Is How Safe?
Is How Secure Is Your Password?
Okay, and what does it do?
.net. And what it happens is you can type in any password and it won't show it on the screen. But what it's going to do is it's going to give you the amount of time it would take a desktop computer to run through an algorithm and try and hack that password.
Okay, and we always have those hints whenever we open a new account somewhere. You know, sometimes they rate what you type in. Not secure, secure, very secure.
This one's going to tell you your password can be hacked instantly, or it'll take 5 days to do it, or 2 trillion years to do it.
And the longer the password, the better.
The longer the password, the better.
You told me you could type a sentence, and that would be even cool.
Yes. If you have one that doesn't repeat characters, that's always good. Upper and lowercase characters, special characters, and numbers.
And often we were talking about, a lot of times, we may not know that we are becoming victims of identity theft, just in the strangest places, grocery stores or what have you. Not necessarily by skimmers, those little devices they put on the slide mechanisms, but people can just walk up to you. What should you be on the lookout for?
There was an incident I read about in somebody in New York, a group of people walking through crowds, and there's always crowds in New York, and they're just scanning people's wallets.
How are they doing? How are they doing
They're
that?
just getting up close to them. They've got a device that reads the magnetic stripes.
So if
on the
someone's
credit
kind of
cards.
violating your space, so to
Yes.
speak,
Yes,
be
getting
wary.
close to you within, a foot or two is probably the best range for those. And, in a crowded area, standing in line waiting for something.
As we all do, usually in a checkout line.
Yes, yes. And if you're typing in your PIN number for your debit cards, somebody might be able to see that.
Yeah, I read an intriguing Washington Post story about the birth of the internet, going way back, I guess, into the 60s, and it had military roots, but
Right.
the one thing they didn't think about was security of all things.
Right.
And, honestly, when these computers were as big as a studio, they probably didn't think, well, somebody might be buying a pair of shoes on Amazon someday.
Right.
And have we created a monster that we've lost control of?
Possibly. I think that with the implementation of IPv6, which is the new
All right, describe that for me.
IP networking,
Okay,
it's
the
an address
address.
system.
Okay.
Every device has an IP address. The older ones are 4 octets
Okay,
of numbers, and they range from 0 to 255.
all right.
The newer ones,
You lost me there, but continue. Okay.
the new addresses are going to be based on a hexadecimal system, or 16, or base 16 numbering system.
Okay.
So they're going to be 8 separate spaces or areas, and the range for those are going to be 0 to 65,535.
So what should you do to protect yourself? I know common sense is very important.
Common sense, use your head. A lot of it is just lack of education, lack of knowing what can possibly happen. As far as creating passwords, that site I gave you is great to check out your passwords.
How secure is your password.net?
.net. And I know the guy that interviewed me earlier put in his
Stuart
password
Hammer?
to test it. No, the other guy that came today.
Okay,
11 seconds
11 seconds.
is what it would take for his password to be
Okay.
cracked.
And there are so many passwords. You don't realize how many passwords you have.
There are a ton
And
of
a lot of people, the temptation to use the same password, but just keep life simple. Well, I'll tell you what, head to my Facebook page now, folks, and tell me what you think about some of your fears concerning hacking. One thing I will say, David, we talked about the biggest fear that people have now in this country. It's not terrorism or burglary or what have you, or being a crime victim, but being an identity theft victim.
Right. Yeah, like I
What does
said,
that say to you?
well, I remember one of those quotes, they asked Dillinger, why do you rob banks? Because that's where
I
the
love
money
this.
is.
I love this story.
Yeah, that's where the money is. Well, that's the same thing. Stealing somebody's identity, they can get to your credit and use whatever that means they can to rob you blind.
And this seems to be getting worse in the last few years.
Yes.
But there are some people in the know out there that are trying to devise some type of more secure system.
Yes. I know my credit cards now have the little chip on them.
Yeah, same
I
here.
just got them in the mail, so now hopefully it should be a little less difficult for somebody to try and
It's
get my
not,
information.
in other words, you have to insert that card in the readers. You don't
Right.
swipe them. That's
Right.
harder for someone who walks up to you to possibly
right.
get
And that
information.
chip has got some encryption
Okay.
on it, so it's not just straight text, where the magnetic stripes are just straight text.
Define this for me real quick. I'm sorry, Krista, just the definition. Sometimes we as journalists say a company says some individuals' accounts were compromised.
Okay.
The word compromised, is that serious, or is that less serious than, say, people's identities were stolen? The language sometimes is confusing. Real quick.
It
again.
depends on if that information was actually downloaded or they just were able to look at it.
Look at it.
And usually compromised is I was just able to view it.
All right. David, thank you so much
You're
for
welcome.
joining us tonight. David Hunnicutt of ITT Tech. Thank you very much. I have a feeling we'll be talking to you again in the future because this is a story that's becoming kind of commonplace,
Right.
at least on the air here and in the public prints. Thank you so much.